Baltimore Ravens have been one of the top contenders in football for more than 2 decades. From the all-time great defenses that emerged in the early 2000s to the dawn of a generational quarterback talent in Lamar Jackson, the Ravens have made their mark on the new millennium. One singular moment in Ravens history is, of course, the magical Super Bowl title run following the 2012 season. There's many magical moments to remember. The Mile High Miracle to stun the Denver Broncos, Bernard Pollard burying the Patriots, and a last-second defensive stand to clinch the Super Bowl. But there is one moment that started it all, one moment that has been almost forgotten in Ravens and NFL history. Until now. The 2012 Baltimore Ravens began the season with high expectations. The 2011 Ravens had been one of the top teams in football, going 12-4 and capturing the AFC North Division title. Led by head coach John Harbaugh, who captained a top defense and a solid offense led by the big-arm Joe Flacco, the Ravens advanced to the AFC Championship game in New England to face the Patriots. The Ravens had the Patriots on the ropes late. Trailing 23-20, they marched to the Patriots' 14, seemingly comfortably inside field goal range with the chance to win the game outright with a touchdown. Unfortunately for the Ravens, wide receiver Lee Evans failed to secure a potential game-winning grab. Then disaster struck as kicker Billy Cundiff missed a potential game-tying 32-yard field goal. The Ravens' season was over. The 2012 Ravens made addressing the kicker position a top priority in the offseason. Baltimore released Billy Cundiff and signed University of Texas kicker Justin Tucker to take his place. Tucker immediately became a stalwart at the kicker position and is widely revered as one of the top place kickers in NFL history. The Ravens were also in need of another playmaker to support an, at times, middling offense. Baltimore added Jacoby Jones, one of the top kick and punt returners in football, to step in as a playmaker both on offense and on special teams. Jacoby Jones had an immediate impact, catching 30 passes his first year with Baltimore and making the Pro Bowl as a returner. Jones's playoff exploits would go on to be the stuff of Ravens legend as well. The Ravens launched into the 2012 season with an improved roster and a desire to avenge their disappointing end from New England. Baltimore started 2012 with a bang, annihilating AFC North Division rival Cincinnati Bengals 44-13 at home under the bright lights of Monday Night Football. Baltimore headed to Philadelphia the following week, and behind 3 long Justin Tucker field goals, the Ravens built and held a lead for most of the game. But Eagles quarterback Mike Vick scored late and handed the Ravens their first loss of the year, 24-23. The Ravens rebounded with 4 consecutive victories against the Patriots, Browns, Chiefs, and Cowboys. All 4 games were one-possession games that could have gone either way. The Ravens completed a 2-score fourth-quarter comeback against the Patriots and then needed a clutch defensive stand to hold off the Browns and another defensive stand to hold off the Chiefs. Against the Cowboys, the Ravens staved off a furious Dallas rally thanks to Cowboys kicker Dan Bailey missing a potential game-winning 51-yard kick. The Ravens were 5-1, but fortunate to be there. Misfortune came to the Ravens in the form of a road trip to Houston, where the Texans demolished the Ravens 43-13. The Baltimore offense was held to a dismal 176 total yards in the defeat. It was the 3rd straight game where the opponent had outgained Baltimore, setting a disturbing trend as the Ravens headed into their bye. The Ravens came out of their bye with the win, handling the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland 25-15. But the disturbing offensive trend continued as Baltimore only mustered 282 yards of offense. 2 weeks later, the Ravens' offensive issues came to a head. The Ravens won an absolutely ugly game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, scoring only 13 points against a paltry 200 yards of total offense. The Ravens' lone touchdown in the game was a Jacoby Jones 63-yard punt return. Jones and rookie Justin Tucker were supposed to be the final pieces to add on to a championship team, but now the 2 new Ravens seem to be carrying the squad. That formula wouldn't last forever. The poor offensive trend continued the following week with another Ravens win despite a dismal performance. The Ravens came back to beat the Chargers 16-13 in overtime on the back of an incredible 4th and 29 conversion. The Ravens were showing mental toughness and clutch talent, but quality execution would be required for a deep playoff run. More struggles emerged the following week in a 23-20 defeat at the hands of the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Ravens once again struggled on offense with just 288 total yards. Flacco completed just 16 of his 34 passes as the Ravens lost to a Steelers team playing without Ben Roethlisberger, their normal starting quarterback. The offense played better against Washington the following week, but the Ravens fell 31-28 in overtime. While it was seemingly a step in the right direction for the offense, the results were still far from ideal. The Ravens achieved 18 first downs and gained 359 total yards. That's respectable, but when compared against the Ravens' 5 punts and 2 turnovers, it hardly looks championship worthy. The Ravens, once considered a candidate for home field advantage, were now in danger of missing the playoffs completely. The offense was ranging from mediocre to abysmally poor during a time where championship contenders started to play their best football. Head coach John Harbaugh was now faced with a challenging dilemma. His team, with much of the same players and staff, had been one completion away from the Super Bowl the prior season. Now there were very real concerns that the team was collapsing. It was at this moment that Harbaugh made the unprecedented move of firing his offensive coordinator, Cam Cameron, and replacing him with Jim Caldwell. Harbaugh was betting his season, his career, and maybe his entire legacy on the notion that Cameron had lost control of the offense, and Caldwell was the right man to right the ship. Desperate for a win, the Ravens headed back home to face the Denver Broncos. The Ravens were now 9-4, and a sense of urgency was building up. Any hopes that the offensive coordinator change would lead to immediate results were rapidly dashed. The Ravens were devastated by the Broncos, 34-17, a score that was closer than the actual game on the field. The Ravens accumulated a measly 12 first downs against 278 total yards of offense. As bad as those numbers are, they look even worse due to the fact the Broncos began using a prevent defense, allowing the Ravens to slowly move the football as the clock ran when Denver opened up a fourth quarter lead with a score of 31-3. The Caldwell experiment looked like a disaster. It was at this moment that the Baltimore Ravens faced their ultimate crossroads. If Harbaugh had bet wrong and Caldwell couldn't right the ship, the team would careen downward and the season and many Ravens' careers would end. This set up one moment, one home opportunity against the defending world champion New York Giants. The Giants, like the Ravens, were coming into their Week 16 matchup fighting for their playoff lives. The Giants were 8-6 and were in danger of missing the playoffs a season after winning the championship. However, New York was used to these moments. Just 1 year earlier, the Giants had needed a Week 16 victory just to stay alive for the postseason. Less than 2 months later, they were Super Bowl champions. New York was built for these kind of games and presented a serious challenge to Baltimore. The Giants won the opening coin toss, and at 4:25, Justin Tucker buried the opening kickoff for a touchback. The Baltimore defense immediately sent a message, forcing a quick 3-and-out. A Jacoby Jones punt return gave the Ravens their first offensive possession of the day, beginning at their own 27. The Ravens executed their opening drive with methodical precision. Flacco hit receiver Anquan Boldin to start off the drive and then mixed in runs and short passes to the running backs to move down the field. Flacco relied on Jacoby Jones to convert 1/3 down in the red zone before wide receiver Torrey Smith caught a 6-yard strike to give Baltimore a 7-0 early lead. The Ravens defense then forced a Giants punt, which Jacoby Jones returned 13 yards to give the Baltimore offense quality starting field position. After using the running game and short passes to move the ball down the field on their first drive, the Ravens crossed up the Giants with a bomb down the right sideline to Torrey Smith that took the ball to the Giants 1. Flacco then snuck in from a yard out, giving the Ravens a 14-0 lead. The Giants demonstrated their championship mettle by responding with a touchdown drive. A holding penalty derailed the Ravens' following possession, and Baltimore was forced to punt for the first time that day. The first quarter ended with the Ravens holding on to a 14-7 lead. Baltimore then flexed their defensive muscle and forced the Giants to punt. The Ravens responded with another methodical drive, mixing in short throws and runs to slowly grind down the Giants' defense. When the moment required a big play, Flacco delivered. He converted a 3rd and 18 with a 39-yard completion to Boldin. The drive bogged down in the red zone, but Justin Tucker easily made the short field goal to extend the Ravens' lead to 17-7. The Ravens' defense, clearly motivated by the offensive outburst, forced the Giants into another 3-and-out. Joe Flacco and the rest of the offense came out to the field with confidence and promptly continued to decimate the Giants' defense. Torrey Smith started the drive off with a 21-yard catch, and Boldin kept the drive alive with a 3rd down conversion 2 plays later. After another Anquan Boldin short catch, the Ravens turned to running back Ray Rice on a post route out of the backfield. The Giants' defense had been hit again and again and again by short throws, and this time they finally broke. Rice ran right through the defense for a 27-yard touchdown reception to give Baltimore a commanding 24-7 halftime lead. The Ravens' offense looked unstoppable. Baltimore had imposed their will with short passes and powerful running in the first half and had delivered a number of explosive plays down the field as the defense wore out. The Giants were proud defending champions, complete with talent and experience, but New York's resilience was no match for this revamped Ravens offense. Baltimore had no problem continuing to dominate through the second half. The Ravens marched on back-to-back long-scoring drives to tack on field goals in the third quarter. The 2 drives totaled 29 plays, covered 144 yards, and ran almost 15 minutes off the clock. The formula remained the same: power runs, short throws, hit a chunk play down the field, and then repeat. The Giants, 10 months earlier, had flummoxed the great Tom Brady. Now they look powerless. The Ravens delivered the nail in the coffin when running back Bernard Pierce broke off a 70-yard run in the fourth quarter. The Ravens added on another Tucker field goal to bring their total to 33 points. The Giants added a garbage time touchdown to bring the game to its final score of 33-14. In just 3 hours, the Ravens had gone from an offensive weakling to a top-flight championship contender. To top it all off, the win clinched the AFC North for Baltimore. The Ravens compiled a season-high 533 total yards of offense on this pivotal day. Flacco had thrown for more than 300 yards on his own right, while the Ravens' running game contributed over 200 yards on the ground. Baltimore dominated with total balance. Both Rice and Pierce had over 100 yards rushing, while 4 different receivers had at least 50 yards receiving. Flacco included 2 touchdowns with his no turnovers on the day, finishing with a passer rating of 114.2. The Ravens rested their starters in a meaningless game the following week and then vaulted into the playoffs with momentum. Baltimore, and especially their offense, carried the team to back-to-back victories, first against the Colts and then against the Broncos. The Ravens then avenged their 2011 playoff defeat against the Patriots by handling New England 28-13. Baltimore then finished off their magical run with a 34-31 victory over the San Francisco 49ers in Super Bowl 47. As the confetti came down, the memories of a struggling offense had long since faded. Harbaugh's bold move had clearly paid off. Prior to making the switch to Jim Caldwell, the Ravens were averaging 344 yards of offense per game. That would have been good for 18th in the NFL. After this switch, the Ravens averaged 400 yards of offense per game, which would have ranked 4th. Those post-switch numbers included the Ravens' playoff run, where they played the best teams in the highest pressure situations. Harbaugh's unprecedented decision turned out to be just what Baltimore needed. Fans of the 2012 Baltimore Ravens will no doubt remember the Jacoby Jones playoff heroics, Flacco's immaculate postseason run, and getting sweet revenge against the Patriots in Foxborough. But all of those great memories can be traced back to one moment, one decision, one game against the New York Giants.